Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Thank you so much for joining us for round 2 of the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Winter Series at Lime Rock Park. It's a return to the traditional sprint format for the Colorado Karting Tour this week after opening the season with an endurance round at Road Atlanta, and sprint series, sprint format very befitting this tight and twisty track. Josh, this is going to be quite tight confines for these GT4 cars, but to bring you the action today is myself, Tyler Newitt. I've got Joshua Lee alongside me in the commentary box, and working all the cameras and the behind-the-scenes production magic is, of course, Jonathan Grabowski. So, Josh, it was quite an exciting round 1 from Road Atlanta. We saw some battles for the lead. We saw some battles further throughout the field. Have to believe in the 2 sprint races today, we're going to see some close confines racing.
And honestly, both tracks, Road Atlanta, Lime Rock, you can draw a couple of similarities in between these two. Obviously, you mentioned Lime Rock being fitting for the sprint format. This is a very, very short racetrack, only about 7 turns around this course, but you have some tight and twisty corners here going into turns number 1 and 2 at Big Bend. Then you have turn 3, the left-hander, turn 4, the right-hander, and then you go small uphill through No Name Straight up and into turn number 5, and then right back down the hill through 6, and you're already back to the Samposi Straight off of turn 7 and finishing a lap. So very short, but also has a bit of the characteristics we saw at Road Atlanta that really helped with the passing throughout the mid-pack, and we saw passing at the front like you mentioned, and a great battle in that top 5. Expecting a lot of the same today as we see a good amount of cars already taking to the track here for qualifying with about 2 minutes left. And look who's at the top, Lawrence Zavadil. What a time, and about 3.5 tenths ahead of McCormick and Lukens, who sit 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, McCormick, winner last time out at Road Atlanta, hasn't quite been able to put anything to compete with Zavadil. Cars are all out on track together during qualifying, so could be a bit of a tough that's helping Zavadil. Obviously no super long straights around Lime Rock, but if you get in behind somebody through West Bend and follow them well through downhill, you can definitely get a good tow into turn number 1. But ooh, that's is that Lukens or Schmid getting wide? They're both off track at the moment. That was Lukens who we were looking at, newcomer to the series. There is Brian Bruzzi, who has just jumped up to 4th place in his McLaren. Expecting, Josh, some Porsche heavy front running at this track. Whoa, that's some air there. Love the classic uphill corner without the chicane. Get some air even in these GT4 cars. But the Porsche does well around the twisty track. There's, not a ton of those point and squirt corners that the McLaren loves so much, and with the already the quicker drivers from the first couple rounds in the Porsche, not much different towards the front.
Definitely not. And you mentioned just how different this track is and favors a couple different manufacturers. You can see a good hodgepodge of McLarens through the field with 2 BMWs a little bit further down the order, but those McLarens are up towards the front, 11th, 12th, 9th, 4th, and 5th currently on the track, as we see one of the BMWs here, Jeremy Davis, and the 14, Mark Sherman going off track there as well. But time running out here in qualifying, Tyler, this looks like this is going to be it. And Lukens almost made a run at the top spot from Zavadil, but still 3 tenths separating 1st and 2nd with a 51.735, a pole position for Zavadil. Quick lap times. This is going to be a quick first heat.
Absolutely. A 15-minute heat race that we are just about to get the grid for. And of course, that heat race will set the grid for the feature. But here is your qualifying order. Lawrence Zavadil, with that excellent time in his Porsche, will sit on the pole. Bruce Lukens, newcomer to the series, will start in 2nd. Mark McCormick, winner last time out at Road Atlanta, lines up 3rd ahead of Brian Bruzzi, who had a tough go of it at Road Atlanta, had to start from the back of the grid because of some connection issues, but expect him to be quick. And of course, reigning champion Rob Hubrex rolls off 5th for the heat race. We know he will be up towards the pointy end. Then it's Kenny Schmid, Michael Keltner, Mike Weber, Ezra Kelderman, and Floyd Kerr, who round out the top 10. Behind them, it's Mark Mulsum and Daniel Fellows. It's Rob Holubar 13th, Trace Walker 14th, John Combs 15th, Jeremy Davis 16th, Mark Sherman 17th, Zach Peterson in 18th, Max Opolsky and Aaron Botnick round out the top 20. Then it's Armand Gavorkian, Daniel Lopet, Grant Hughes, John Schneebel rounding out the grid. So 24 cars taking the green here at Lime Rock Park. That's going to be, well, there's going to be some lap traffic, you'd have to imagine, for our race leaders. They're going to come up to some of the slower cars before this race is said and done, even the 15-minute heat race. And remembering back to when the previous season's USF 2000 cars came around here, it was actually some of those lap traffic that handed the win to Rob Hubrex in both of the races. So definitely going to be interesting to see how they manage that.
As they get ready to roll off. Of course, usually used to starting standing starts in these eras of road racing, especially here at Lime Rock Park. Not used to really seeing GT cars here, but here they are rolling off now. Rather short pace lap, of course, as a couple drivers trying to warm up those tires. I'm interested to see how this dive into turn number 1 is going to go, because going through 1 and 2, it's not the hardest braking zone in the world. We're not going to the turn 1 and 2 chicane at Monza here, but still is going to provide a good challenge for these drivers. And on the exit of 2 especially, if these drivers get on the gas a little bit too early, they're going to be pushing up to the outside and pushing a car wide off track if there is a car there. So they need to be careful on the exit of turn number 2, make sure they are safe and staying on that gray stuff, because ultimately with Lime Rock being a rather older circuit, we're not in the new era of circuits where everything is asphalt runoff. It is all grass. If you get off track here, you're going to be into trouble. We already saw a bit of that in qualifying. Let's see if we see a bit of it here in the only heat of the night.
Yeah, and it is, of course, the classic layout of Lime Rock Park as well. Neither of the chicanes in use. It is the traditional uphill and west bend corners, so expect some fast speeds and not a ton of braking involved as we see the cars working their way into downhill. The pace car will pull off to the right, although it's pretty far down the pit entry on the front straight. We'll have to wait until that pace car makes the hard right turn. There it goes. Zavadil gets an early jump, and he is off and away, heading towards Big Bend, turn number 1. He's got a pretty clear gap over Bruce Lukens and Brian Bruzzi, who's settled into 3rd, up 1 place over last week's winner, Mark McCormick, who heads away in 4th. Then it's Kenny Schmid, who's jumped Rob Hubrechts on the start. So a couple drivers moving forward a spot or 2. It looks like everyone is cleanly through Big Bend, which is good to see. We had some trouble early at Road Atlanta, but so far so good as the field works their way through the left-hander and right-hander. And that is their real names. I'm not just generalizing here. That's what the corners are called.
Rather simple corner names here for the only 7 corners around this course. Is one driver going to go way off the racetrack further back. That was a McLaren going off track, I believe. That was Zach Peterson who we saw go off, but only 7 corners were already done with lap number 1 as they go on to lap number 2. McCormick able to move up a spot, or move back into P3, I should say, after Bruzzi ended up passing him. Now Bruzzi's going to fall 1 spot. Kenny Schmid gets by, still 2 by 2, closer up towards the front. We might have saw a look at a 3-wide moment, does not come to fruition. Still a couple drivers side by side. One driver going to go off track. That's Mike Weber having to save it in the 13.
Yeah, he got pushed a little wide there, but did well to hang on to it and not spin across the track. That's a big danger zone here at Lime Rock. Could easily lead to some trouble. But he held on to it. We ride on board with Mike now as he had their side by side into uphill. There's contact, and Floyd Kerr is sent into the barrier. It was the McLaren of Fellows that got into him there. Uphill is definitely a corner you can go side by side through, but it requires a little bit of cooperation. And Fellows and Kerr not willing to cooperate there, and Kerr comes the worst off. A couple drivers going wide on downhill as we get a replay of the incident from on board. Now we see side by side were Fellows and Kerr working their way down the no-name straight. Ooh, and it almost looked like Kerr just thought Fellows was backing out of it and turned in into the corner before realizing that Fellows was still there.
Yeah, and that's one of those contacts that we see a lot, and we've seen it a lot, especially this season in Formula One, where you just kind of expect the driver on the inside to either give up the spot or maybe
Ooh, there's a big wreck in the back, Josh, sorry.
And there it is.
Yeah, that is Peterson and Combs who have come together at uphill as well. So uphill proving to be a big trouble spot. Of course, it really is the trouble spot at Lime Rock. We'll have to see. Oh, that's another. That was Lukens. That was second place going off there. We're going to get a replay first of the incident that happened at uphill. And, oh, it was a spin and the McLaren with nowhere to go. Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, the Porsche number 19 just lost it early and uphill and left the McLaren of Peterson with nowhere to go. But let's see what happened to second place here, or formerly second place, Bruce Lukens, heading into Big Bend. Was he just too late on the brakes? Yes, and the back end stepped out a little bit, but that's really just a product of carrying too much speed. And Josh, I think anyone who's raced here at Lime Rock knows how slippery that grass is, and it'll suck you right off and really cause you to lose some pretty significant time. We see Lukens has settled in now down in 13th place as he looks to make a move on Jeremy Davis.
He did make that move on Jeremy Davis up in a P12. That'll move the Boulder, Colorado native a little bit closer to getting back up into the top 10. Currently taking a look, battle for 6th place, or specifically focusing on 9th place, Ezra Kelderman. He currently sits in their McLaren, sitting there in front of another McLaren of Mark Malsom behind, trying to catch up to Mike Weber and Daniel Fellows, who currently race in front of them. And a good start for Kelderman as we go on board now with the number 10 machine, familiar to racing in the real world in the 24 Hours of Lemons in his 1950 Dodge truck. Of course, the virtual McLaren GT4, much different, Tyler, but those real life racing, no matter how funny it is, with the 24 Hours of Lemons obviously being an endurance race mainly for jokes and a lot of rusted up old cars getting suited up and going out there and racing, but any kind of real life racing experience can be translated into iRacing, and clearly working for Ezra Kelderman. Is they're up in 9th place currently, has not moved from where they qualified, but has not lost anything either, as here comes Mike Weber to try and make a move on Fellows again. Not going to be able to do it, and here comes Kelderman to the inside as they go uphill.
Absolutely. We'll see if Kelderman decides to make the move on the brakes into West Bend. He does not, and will let Weber hang on to that 8th place for a little while longer as Zavadil sets a fastest lap of the race now. But yeah, you know, and we talked, Josh, about the blending of the real world and the virtual world. All of these drivers have some sort of real world racing experience, be it karts or autocross, or in the case of some of the drivers here, GT4 experience, you know. And you mentioned Lemons as well. It's lots of a wide variety of racing experience that these drivers have, but it all helps. It's all, you know, some translated to the virtual world better than others, but everybody, you know, has that racing bug, and you know, is using what they've learned in the real world here in the virtual, even if they, as you said, don't drive a McLaren GT4 on a regular basis. But here we see the battle for second, or third rather, excuse me. That's Kenny Schmid in the Porsche. He leads Brian Bruzzi and Michael Keltner. Rob Hubrex has dropped a further spot now back to 6th place after starting in 5th, but of course Lukens had his issues earlier on that set him back. But here we see this battle once again as Lukens, I think, has gone wide again. He's dropping down the order further. Another look at what happened to Lukens here, and it's the same thing, almost a carbon copy, except he kept it mostly or partly on the track this time, and does well to back out. That's a heads up move there from Lukens to back off of the racing surface, but did a little bit better to hang on to it there, but really seems like he's just not hitting his braking marker into turn 1, Josh.
And you might think that he did it once, he'd learn, not do it again, but once you get into a groove, and maybe he's hitting that same braking marker that he hit during practice and qualifying, that now with either changing tire temperatures or changing track temperatures just isn't going to work anymore. So he needs to get out of that groove, start backing up that braking zone and be able to brake it a little bit earlier, maybe sacrifice a little bit of time going through turn number 1, but at least he won't be turned around in the middle of the racetrack as we go on board with Keltner as he races on. Another one of those autocross drivers and a seasonal sim racer trying to fight from P5, and he's got a bit of a stack up in front of him. The McLaren of Brian Bruzzi's there, Kenny Schmid is backed up to him, and he can still see Mark McCormick there as well. Four drivers relatively close together here as Lawrence Zavadil checks out from the field, and the gap 5.7 seconds, looking a lot like a certain Formula One race from this morning.
Or perhaps like Zavadil at Laguna Seca, another track that we know is well suited to the Porsche GT4 that he's driving, as they're side by side again for P8. Kelderman trying the long way around there, but Weber says no thank you, and hangs on to that 8th place as he continues to put pressure on Fellows, and Kelderman falls into the clutches of Malsum. But yeah, Zavadil extremely dominant in the non-points paying round to open the season at Laguna Seca. A really somewhat similar track, much as the surrounding scenery is starkly different, but the flow of the track not all together totally different. And Zavadil was dominant there and seems to be rather dominant here as well.
We'll see how long that domination continues, because this, of course, is only the first and only heat of the night. We have about 6 minutes left here, then we go into a 30-minute feature race that is going to be the bulk of the time spent in this event. So he, of course, needs to continue that speed going into the main feature race tonight, because ultimately this is only going to set their order to start in that feature race. So Tyler, if Zavadil ends up having a bad time in that feature, well, then he can basically kiss everything he did in this heat race goodbye, because at the end of the day, it is not going to matter. The only place that matters is where you finish in that feature.
Well, certainly true, and don't forget as well that the grid for that feature race is set from this heat race. So somebody like Bruce Lukens, who we know has pace around here, but after a couple of spins sits down in 17th place as they're side by side through Big Bend. Weber going for that 7th position. Is he going to have it here? No. Fellows squeezes him a bit wide through the left-hander, and they settle back into a neat and tidy order through the right-hander. But someone like Bruce Lukens is going to be needing to work their way forward in that feature race, and while we know he's got pace, that is going to take a lot of pace to work from 17th to the front here at Lime Rock, as the McLarens might have had a little contact there. Malsum and Kelderman got awfully close through West Bend, but both emerged unscathed under the bridge into downhill, and in the order they were running. So if there was contact, neither seems to have suffered too greatly for it, but Malsum definitely putting the pressure on Kelderman here and not making his job easy as he's trying to attack Weber. He still needs to defend from Malsum.
They have really stacked up here from 7th down into 10th, and you can see Malsum trying to get by the fellow McLaren. In front of him is the 13 and Mike Weber is going to take a little bit of a trip through the grass. That's going to back him up to Kelderman now. Here comes the 10 to the inside, side by side up the hill. A bit of a door slam. The 13 is going to go right back off the racetrack, and another move to the inside for Kelderman. Is he going to move him off? Another close contact made as they continue to race on. Weber's going to hold the spot. Here comes Malsum to try and fight back into P number 9. And look who's caught up, I believe. That's Tracy Walker-Scott trying to run up here at the front.
Yeah, I have to give it commend these drivers. I mean, you know, it's not easy to go side by side through West Bend like these drivers have now done 2 laps in a row. Whether in the virtual world or the real world, but especially when you consider in the virtual world that, you know, some of these drivers might be racing on just a single screen, and you know, they don't have the best of periphery vision to see what's going on around them. But everybody here doing their part to keep it clean and put on a great race for us, as we see Lukens going past Aaron Botnick here. That was for 15th place, so Lukens continues to work his way back forward, but this battle continues to rage on, and you mentioned Trace Walker-Scott has worked his way into it, and Rob Holubar not too far off in the background as Jeremy Davis got all sorts of out of shape in downhill. Oh, that's a big lunge there from Kelderman, but I think he might finally have it done. That's what needed to happen. A big move on the brakes to clear the Porsche of Weber into left-hander. That is where Weber's been able to force Kelderman wide to stop the pass, but this time Kelderman got it done early and has secured that 8th place.
perfect move from Kelderman. Take a look at the timing tower. Brutzi, Hubrex, Fellows, and Kelderman are now 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. All 4 of them McLarens. We talked about how the McLarens had a bit of a leg up here at Lime Rock, and definitely starting to see that, but it's still 4 Porsches that are setting the pace at the front of the field. But top 10, 5 Porsches, 5 McLarens. We're seeing it fairly even up at the front. So we go on board with another McLaren. This is Brian Brutzi, who we are currently on board with. He's trying to get by Michael Keltner.
Oh, no.
And Brutzi's going to go around in the number 17.
And you could see it from the onboard there. Brutzi just caught a little bit of grass on the left side, and that spun that McLaren around, and now Brutzi will watch as the field works its way past him. He'll be able to rejoin, I think, where he is. No, he's going to lose a few more spots. We'll get a replay here from the outside. He was tucked right up in behind, I believe that was Keltner, and just dipped those wheels into the grass. Hubrex had to get on the brakes to avoid him. But that's a tough break for Brian Brutzi, who's hanging on to a top 5 position as we see the race leader Zavadil getting some screen time. You always, feel a little bad when a driver is so far out in front that you don't ever show, but Zavadil putting on a dominant performance so far in this heat race, and making it clear that he is a fan of Lime Rock Park. It certainly has to be said.
Back to this exciting battle here, currently brewing for P6. Take a look at Weber trying everything he possibly can to get around Daniel Fellows in that number 25. How about Daniel Fellows currently up 5 spots from where he started P12. Zavadil's going to take the white flag here in the heat race tonight, and with a 7.8 second lead. In the words of Christian Horner, it's going to take a miracle for McCormick to catch up to Zavadil at the front of this field.
Absolutely, but yeah, we didn't even notice. It must have been while Brutzi had his spin, but Kelderman had gotten past Fellows for that 6th place. So the train moves a little bit around a little bit, but they stay in tight formation as Weber looking desperately, ducking and diving for a way to get around that pink McLaren of Fellows. As we cut to the race leader, race winner, Lawrence Zavadil crosses the finish line down the Sam Posey Straight with a dominant performance at Lime Rock Park. Whoa! Well, there was a big puff of smoke at uphill. Weber is ahead of Fellows. Holubar, or Walker rather, had a look there. But somewhere in all that, Weber got the jump on Daniel Fellows, and Trace Walker-Scott was lucky to avoid a pretty significant incident there as he hangs on to 9th place.
That was Mark Malson that got involved in this incident here, Tyler. Sorry to cut you off there, but we're taking a look at the replay now. Side by side in front of him, that's Weber there. Going side by side, and there's Malson getting contact with the number 25 machine in front of him, and just gets turned off track. So unfortunate for Mark Malson, and then he just lost so many spots from there. Yeah,
similar to the incident we saw earlier with Floyd Kerr. Just, it's a tough corner to go 2x2, and if the driver ahead doesn't know that you're making that move, it can end poorly, and unfortunately for Malson, it did. We've got a 5-minute warm-up here for the drivers to reset before the 30-minute feature race, which will, of course, feature Lawrence Zavadil from the pole position. You really don't feel like he needs that pole position, though, Josh. You feel like he could probably start, 24th and find his way to the front at the end of 30 minutes.
I definitely think so. I think if we had a full invert, he'd still somehow find his way up to the front. But Tyler, with this being the 2nd round of the campaign for this season of the Colorado Karting Tour, it's going to be a really big race in terms of points because, of course, coming off of Road Atlanta, pretty much the points sit exactly how those results sat. So this is going to be the 2nd race that is going to be inputted on these points, which could lead to a couple of drivers starting to pull away at the front.
Yes, if you watched the previous round at Road Atlanta, these point standings might look a little bit familiar to you because they are pretty much how everybody finished up there. Mark McCormick leads from Lawrence Zavadil and Rob Hubrex. Ezra Kelderman sits 4th, and Jim McKendry 5th. Don't think we've got Jim present here at Lime Rock Park, so unfortunately he's going to be finding himself down the order. But Zavadil certainly helped his cause with the win in the heat race, and will obviously be keeping an eye on this as it plays out through the season. But the names to watch at the top, McCormick, Zavadil, Hubrex, all having a strong showing again here at Lime Rock. So, you know, it's you tend to find this over the championship. It's the same guys find their way towards the front, and those are some quick drivers up there. But it's going to be a tough order for Rob Hubrex to defend his championship with the influx of drivers from the greater Colorado racing scene, but not exactly the Colorado karting tour. And actually, we have prizes on offer for the top finishing drivers in the points who are not already members of the Colorado karting tour. They can win various levels of karting track prizes from Point Karting. So cool stuff on offer. I believe Zavadil is eligible for that prize. He's not a Colorado karting tour member, so he will be looking to try and win a day on the kart from Point Karting. So I believe 2 is McCormick. So lots of quick guys from the Colorado area trying to win some cool prizes. But that is the points as they stand right now, as we watch some of the drivers on track for warm-up. Not everybody taking advantage of the warm-up. In fact, not all that many taking advantage of the warm-up. Everyone pretty much got the laps they needed in race number 1, maybe taking a break to have some water or you know, clear their systems for race number 2. But it's nice to have that break in there if you need it.
Not a lot of drivers taking to the track in the warm-up here. Not super surprised. Of course, only 5 minutes in this warm-up, but we get a good look at Kenny Schmid for W2W Racing. A lot of Colorado Karting Tour and real-life experience and a lot of Roll Racing League experience. Also in the real world, one of those drivers that has GT4 experience as well. So great to see Kenny Schmid out there on the track. He's going to grab a couple of laps of practice as he continues to continue on. And 45 seconds left here in warm-up. We saw a couple of fireworks in the heat race, Tyler, and I think we're going to see just a little bit more in this feature. Of course, everybody going for that main event position. They want to finish good in this feature, and especially for those drivers that showed speed in the heat, they need to show speed here again, as obviously it is 15 minutes longer than that heat race was. 15 minutes in the heat, we got a 30-minute feature race coming on up.
Yeah, and honestly, you mentioned there was some carnage, some contact, and for sure there was. But I have to say, I was quite impressed by the display of driving we saw from the drivers in the heat race. You know, Lime Rock is not an easy track to race around. You know, GT4s aren't big cars by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a small track, and everyone pretty much managed to avoid significant incident. Obviously, we had a couple of side-on-side contacts that led to some wrecks, but for the most part, everyone who had incidents was of their own doing. So good to see that people keeping it clean here in the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Winter Series from Apex Racing TV. But we've got your grid for the feature race. Lawrence Zavadil, as he did in race number 1, will start from the pole. And Mark McCormick will do his best to keep up, but it's going to be a tall order based on the showing Zavadil put on in the heat. Kenny Schmid rolls off 3rd. But really, I don't think we highlighted Kenny too much in that heat race, but a solid podium there, up from a starting spot outside the top 5. Michael Keltner rolls off in 4th ahead of reigning champion Rob Hubrex. Then it's Ezra Kelderman, Mike Weber, Daniel Fellows, Trace Walker, and Rob Holubar, who round out the top 10. Behind them, Jeremy Davis and Bruce Lukens are row 6. Then it's Daniel Lopez, Aaron Botnick, Brian Brutzi, Mark Malsum, Armand Gavorkian, Mark Sherman, Floyd Kerr, John Combs, John Schneebel, Max Sapolsky, Zach Peterson, and Grant Hughes rounding out your feature race grid, and the pace car is away. A nice full pace lap for these drivers, but it won't be long before they're back on the Samposi straight and getting this feature race started.
And Zavadil back on the pole, obviously, after that heat race win. And we'll see how far he's going to get out in front here in this feature. Really, it's been the Zavadil and McCormick show over the last 2 races, and I should say the first half of today's races were really only technically about a third of the way through the total time we're going to be racing out here on the track. And of course, only one of the round to go off of at Road Atlanta. Of course, they sit top 2 in the points standings, and I believe, depending on where McCormick finishes here, Zavadil has an opportunity to take over that points lead, but he might need McCormick to finish a couple of spots down the order. McCormick was just as consistent in that heat race as Zavadil was, walking away with a P2.
Certainly, it's going to be a tall task for McCormick to unseat Zavadil, but we saw last season, you know, it's the consistent finishes that pay in the championship, with Rob Hubrex just pounding out those wins, and if he didn't win, he was at or near the front. So that's what it's going to take to win this championship. But McCormick is going to want to get a better start than he did in the heat race, where Zavadil was well clear in the turn 1. He's gone though. Zavadil off down the straight. McCormick tucks in behind, gets that toe just a little bit, but it's enough to draw him alongside into turn number 1. Doesn't though attempt to make the pass around the outside. That would be a difficult task through Big Bend on the first lap. Kenny Schmid tucks in to 3rd, ahead of Keltner and Hubrex, as we've had another clean start, which is good to see. Everyone through Big Bend and left-hander safely, working their way now through the right-hander. And we look at a little further back in the pack, several drivers making their way forward. Rob Holubar is up a spot. Bruce Lukens up 3. We know Bruce is quick. Mike Weber, I don't think Mike took the start of that race because he is not showing on track. So tough break for Mike there as they're side by side through downhill. That is, who is that? That is Kerr and Botnick going at it. Botnick's got the inside line into Big Bend. Oh, and Schmid is off in turn 1. Was that on his own, or did he have assistance? Either way, that is going to drop it pretty much to the back of the field.
Unfortunately for Kenny Schmid here. Here's the replay that we're going to take a look at, and I don't believe he had any contact. Nobody close enough. The 21 breaking in front of him. Oh, he got very loose going into turn number 1, and that just turned him around and not on the brakes fast enough, and it was a swift slam into the wall. Not a ton of damage, so I don't think it'll affect the speed too much of that Porsche, but now he's way down to 19th place on the racetrack.
Ooh, that's Fellows off.
Zavadil, and we've got more issues, Tyler.
Yeah, that was Fellows off at the downhill, and I'm seeing Floyd Kerr getting out of shape as well. So these drivers pushing downhill to the limit, and some pushing over that limit. You can see behind Fellows is Lukens, already up to 8th place after starting in 12th. But yeah, Kenny Schmid just, you know, either missed his braking point or was a little too late on the brakes, as there's a McLaren off back there. Who was that? That looks like Zach Peterson, who was off at the left-hander. As Kenny... We saw Kenny Schmid giving a flash of the headlights, trying to work his way back through the field. Now, did he give Peterson a helping hand here? No.
No,
Peterson just missed the turn-in point. It looked like he saw Kenny in the mirrors and maybe caught him by surprise a little bit, but certainly there was no contact there. There is Floyd Kerr, who had the incident in the first race that took him out of contention, but he's up 6 spots. Max Opolsky behind him. Oh no, that's Davis around in Big Bend, and major contact from Floyd Kerr there. I think Opolsky might have had some as well. Davis, that right rear suspension was very broken, and I'm seeing Armand Gevorkian is also at the back of the field, so both BMWs having issues here. But not sure what spun Davis originally, but he was not in a good spot when Porsche of Kerr came along.
There's a good amount of drivers caught up in that one. Now let's take a look. Schmid down to the bottom. He makes the pass. It happened in front of him. And, oh, Schmid gets collided into the 16. Where did that incident begin? It started a little bit further up the road from the rest of that group, maybe around the Walker area, but either way, unfortunate for the lead about the 3 or 4 drivers who sustained a couple of scrapes and slams from that incident. But up at the front, Zavadil not pulled away, I think, as far as I was expecting. McCormick has him reeled in, definitely nowhere near where he wants, but 1.7 seconds is a lot better than the some odd 8-second gap we saw at the end of the heat race. So with 4 minutes 20 seconds down and still a long way to go, still a long time for Zavadil to keep on pulling away, as he already made up about 4/10 on that last lap.
Yeah, and McCormick will be getting to the fringes of that toe at about 1.5 seconds, 3/4 back. So he'll be losing that little advantage as we see side by side here, Kenny Schmid and Mark Malsum. Malsum hangs on to that position for now. Brian Bruzzi also in there after starting further towards the back. Ooh, Malsum blinked out there, and I think Kenny Schmid didn't know exactly where he was, but that is not helping these drivers. Connection issues for Malsum wreaking havoc here, as Kenny Schmid just looking for a way through here. Brian Bruzzi would also like to move forward. This is for 9th place at the moment. And yeah, that's tough with Malsum blinking there. If it gets much worse than that or continues much longer, he's going to need to pull off here. But Schmid with the cutback on downhill, he's alongside, and Bruzzi wants to get through as well. They are 3 wide. Now Malsum is clear of Schmid and defends heavily to the inside. Oh, and Bruzzi and Schmid come together hard. I don't think Kenny Schmid knew Brian Bruzzi was there. I think he was so focused on the McLaren of Malsum that he just turned in to turn 1 thinking that he was clear, and unfortunately he was not. Bruzzi, the innocent bystander there.
Replay here coming on to the Sam Posey straight. Oh, they touched already. That's Schmid making contact with Malsum. Look at Bruzzi, a brave move, almost made it 3 wide. Malsum was clear. Schmid goes up to cover the 19, and there's the slam. I think you're exactly right, Tyler. He thought he'd be behind the 17 of Bruzzi, turned down incredibly too quick, and ended up door slamming that McLaren and sending them both off and into the runoff area.
Yeah, and with Bruzzi tucked right in behind Malsum, he would have been slower into that corner than perhaps Kenny Schmid would have expected him to be. So that also probably contributed to the issue, but it was all predicated on Malsum's connection issues. And it's a really tough thing when you don't know where somebody you're racing with is on track at any given moment. And it's tough. You know, there's nothing Malsum can do about that. He's not trying to have connection issues, but it really makes life difficult for those drivers around him. And unfortunately for Brian Bruzzi and Kenny Schmid, they are out of this race. And I'm sure Brian's not going to be too happy about that one. I'm sure Kenny's not too happy about that one either. I know for sure, having talked to Kenny several times, he is not the type of guy to intentionally take someone out there, but just an unfortunate bit of contact. But here we see Peterson and Schneebel battling over 15th place. Peterson having run wide earlier in this race, but looks like he's going to get job done on John Schneebel into Big Bend and gets it slowed up in time. So that's a position forward for Zach Peterson.
And good on Peterson. As you can see, they're continuing to fight here as he tries to get around Mark Malsum. Can't do it. And look at how much they stacked up here. We've seen the same thing. I wonder if it's just a product of GT4 racing. To be honest, I haven't commentated on too much GT4, but we just have these pockets of battles. We have the pocket of battles up at the front, about 3rd, 4th, 5th, and you can even count 6th in there if you want at about a second behind 5th place. But we have this pocket we're watching right now towards the teens, and they just run together. We have another pocket a little bit further up with Lopez and Combs fighting. So we have battles across the field, and shades of Lime Rock Park, and I think shades of GT4 racing as well. Here comes Peterson. He's going to move out of the way of Schmid. Schmid is going to power along by. Great straight line speed from that 983 Porsche.
Yeah, I tell you what, Josh, I have done a lot of GT4 racing here on iRacing, and you're exactly right. These cars just don't quite have enough power to really, truly escape the tow unless you've got significant pace advantage on the driver behind you. So you really do get these kind of battle pockets, and you know, sometimes you'll see a driver make a pass and he'll get ahead and you'll think, oh, he's been held up, you know, he's just going to run away with this one. But they're really all right on the same pace, and even that little bit of tow, you know, there's not a ton of long straights here at Lime Rock. We keep talking about it, but that tow does play a factor, and it does help the driver behind, and it goes, you know, almost to 2 seconds back with these cars. So it's pretty substantial. It really is some of the most fun. Ooh, that was somebody spinning back there. Was that Hubrex? He might, it looked like he collected it.
Malsum.
Well,
huge damage for Malsum.
Yeah, Malsum's off hard, but I think Hubrex had a big sideways moment. And yeah, he is off and reset to the pit lane. That must have been a second incident because he had a big moment in uphill, but I think that was in downhill. And goodness, what happened to Malsum? So all going on here for some of the McLarens on the track.
So Zavadil still leads by about 5 seconds. So we'll see Hugh Brett stand. I believe Malsum getting involved in this one as well. We're getting a focus on Kelderman here.
Yeah, so he did have a big moment there. Ah, no, that's what it was. I saw Kelderman pop up, and I thought it was Hubrex because they look similar from the front. But it was, in fact, Hubrex just getting out of shape on the braking into uphill, and he's had to reset to the pit. So really tough break for the reigning champion, Rob Hubrex. Here's what happened to Malsum into Big Bend. It looks like he's racing. Is that Schmid again? So these two have found each other on track again. Ooh, big. Oh, that's not.
Ooh.
Well, it's not my job to judge the racing standards here, but that is not. That's not how you defend. That was some moving in reaction, as they say. Which is usually the line drawn for blocking. And I don't think Kenny meant to hit him. He just didn't have time to pull clear. And that tap to the rear sent Malsum off hard.
So they continue to race now. We're back in this front battle as that's Keltner, Kelderman, and Lukens as they fight third, fourth, and fifth. And interesting to note on the positions gained from the start of this race for everybody in the field except for P24, P1, and 2, they have either gained or lost at least one position on the racetrack. Biggest movers are Floyd Kerr up 11, Max Opolski also up 11, honorable mentions John Combs, Zach Peterson up 10, and biggest loser of the race, Mike Weber, started up in P7, while 16 spots currently resides P23 and also retired and out of this race.
Yeah, Mike, I don't think took the start, though it looks like he was at some point on track, but did not start this one. But I want to give my own honorable mention to Bruce Lukens, who we saw have those couple of spins in race number 1, but he's been nothing but clean and green in race number 2 here at Lime Rock, and he's worked his way from 12th place starting spot up to 5th, and he's looking for more. He's got a good run on Kelderman here as there was a car parked on the front straight there. Not sure what happened to that car, but Lukens really wants to have a go at Kelderman, but the problem is, you know, we were talking about these battle packs you get. If you're the third car in line, it's so hard. You have to get such a good run out of the corner to make anything happen because the car in front of you is getting just as good a tow as you are. So it's really difficult to be the third car in a train. But Lukens really has, we know he has the pace. He qualified second, trying to move forward here, but he's got a tall task ahead of him with Keltner and Kelderman.
On board with Bruce Lukens and the Team RM solo machine as he races on and looking for more positions on the racetrack. You mentioned he's got your honorable mention this race. He's going to take a send down to the inside. Is he going to go for it on Kelderman? He peeks the nose in there, but Kelderman able to hold on in the middle line of turns 1 and 2. Up on the inside curb goes Bruce Lukens. He's able to keep that number 18 machine under him, but as I say that, he gets a little bit loose coming through the left-hander at turn 3, and he's going to lose a bit of time. Kelderman going to pull away now from the 18 as he falls just a little bit down, about now 7/10 or so from 4th down to 5th place where Lukens currently resides.
Yeah, not a very strong commentator's curse there, but
So
just the imaging of saying kept it under him as soon as the rear steps out was rather funny to me. But Brutzi clears Botnick there for 15th place as he works his way forward after his incident in Big Bend with Kenny Schmid earlier on in this one. Schmid's worked his way back up to 12th place. There is Kenny. Next in line for him is Max Opolsky, one of our big movers of the race, up 11 spots into P11. So started at the back of the cars who actually took the start in this one. As we see the battle. Whoa! Man, these cars can really get out of shape at the exit of downhill. But they keep it under him most of the time, and Opolsky there hangs on to 11th place, but pressure coming in the form of Kenny Schmid, and I think that's a lap down Rob Hubrechts behind him as well. So some quick drivers in behind Opolsky as we go back to the battle for the final podium spot. Keltner has it. Kelderman and Lukens want it. This time, Lukens has a bit more of an advantage over Kelderman, and Kelderman is deep into Big Bend. Can Lukens get alongside? No, he tucks right in behind as they exit the double apex right-hander into the left-hander called left-hander, and he will settle in as they head through right-hander towards uphill.
Very simple corner names here at Live Rock Park. If you're just tuning in with us, and on board once again with Lukens, he's caught back up to this group. Is getting a little bit of air coming up the hill there through turn 5. Now they go through turn 6, the West Bend. He made a brave move into 1 a couple of laps ago on Ezra Kelderman, wondering if he's going to go for it again. He's going to have a bit of a run as they come out at turn number 7 to the Samposi straight. I don't think he's going to have enough of a draft or enough of a run down the straightaway to go for it. No, he won't. So he's going to stay in line with Ezra Kelderman in front of him, P4. Michael Keltner just watching everything happen in his mirror as he continues to race on in his Porsche. But Kelderman stuck in a Porsche sandwich right now, as he also can see a couple of lap machines up in front. I believe one of them is Mark McCormick, 2nd place. That BMW is not on the lead lap. That looks to be Jeremy Davis that is up there. That'll be
Armand Gevorkian in the bright yellow one. I think it's Davis right up ahead of McCormick, stuck in between a couple of BMWs there. But, Gevorkian got a little out of shape heading towards downhill. But yes, McCormick not too far clear of that battle pack that we've seen with Keltner, Kelderman, and Lukens. Will be interesting to see if they can close back in, but obviously McCormick working through some lap traffic here. But nothing is slowing down Lawrence Zavadil, who sits 7 seconds ahead of McCormick. Clearly, likes this car, likes this track. He's just put on an absolute show, and we kind of saw hints of this at Laguna Seca, and I won't say I was happy to see that he had a challenge at Road Atlanta, but it was good to see that he wasn't clear and far away the best. But that's Davis around, and Kelderman involved. Not sure what the start of that was, but the lap car of Davis went for a spin at uphill, and Ezra Kelderman came out the worst of it. We'll get a replay here. We mentioned at the outset how lap traffic can be perilous here. So it was Gevorkian and Davis going side by side. That was for position, but Davis forced way out wide, and Kelderman just carried a whole heap of speed in there. I think not anticipating that BMW would be at the exit of the corner, and just unfortunate for both of them. Kelderman now out of this one, or at least will need to come down to the pits to get his fast repair. But the battle for third rages on, and that's actually big advantage Bruce Lukens, who now doesn't have to worry about getting past 2 cars. just the one, and he's got the toe on Keltner.
And he tried to go for a move there, could not make it work, and now he's gonna have to regroup as he chases down Keltner. Down the hill they go through turn 7. Battle for the final spot on the podium. Lukens with not the best of runs down the straightaway. The Samposi straight, he's gonna have an opportunity. No, he won't. Not even gonna be close enough to go side by side into the braking zone of turn number 1. So as they continue to race, Keltner needs to be looking in his mirror as much as he possibly can to hold off Bruce Lukens behind him. Going through the right-hander now. When is Bruce Lukens going to look to make that move? He might have an opportunity as they go up the hill. He's been so strong through Sector 2. He's right on the back bumper of Keltner in the number 8 Porsche. But as they go up the hill, airtime for Bruce Lukens. He is so close to that back bumper, just can't make the pass work, and commends to Michael Keltner. He is making that Porsche about as wide as the racetrack right now.
And of course, Lime Rock, not a very wide track, so a little easier than some of the other tracks we might visit, but Keltner doing an exemplary job here to keep the charging Lukens behind. And really, where he's best is downhill in that run onto the Samposi straight, and that's exactly where he needs to be quick, because Big Bend is the only real good overtaking opportunity because it is the hardest braking zone on the track. You can get alongside and get a move done into uphill. You can do it into West Bend, and it looks like he's going to try into uphill, gets the car alongside. This is going to slow both of them down, and unfortunately, ultimately, Lukens has to cede. Once again, he's really just got to figure out how to get that run through downhill and make the move into Big Bend on Keltner here, but Keltner just carries a little more speed. This time, though, Lukens has the run. Keltner moves to defend. That's a good defensive line there. Tough to make anything happen around the outside here. Will Lukens be able to do it? He tries, he sends it deep and gets it done on the brakes, and he's clear. Wow, what a pass from Lukens. That is tough to do around the outside in Big Bend, but he's got a podium place and looking for more with 10 minutes to go here in the feature.
Keltner now gonna have to regroup, try and get back around Bruce Lukens. He was on his back bumper for about 2 laps, and a wonderful move down the front straightaway to make that move work for Bruce Lukens. Moves him up and into the podium places. Another dominant race for Lawrence Savadil. He's at the front. Mark McCormick is gonna play second fiddle here at Lime Rock. It was Savadil playing second fiddle at Road Atlanta. Gonna be roles reversed here at Lime Rock Park with 9 minutes to go. Some things can still happen, but take a look at the lap times. 5/10 faster last time by was Lawrence Zavadil. He has caught up to some lap traffic, but every single lap, Zavadil opening the gap on Mark McCormick. He's going to need to get caught up in an incident with these lap machines, Tyler, if McCormick's going to have any opportunity at going back-to-back in the win column so far in this campaign.
Well, we have absolutely seen that can happen. And these are some hard battling McLarens here. We've got Bruzzi and Kelderman and Hubrex. These are not slow drivers. These are drivers who were running up front before incidents. It is for position between Kelderman and Hubrex, but not Bruzzi. Looks like Zavadil will clear at least Hubrex and Kelderman. He's going to get Bruzzi as well here. So that is a big sigh of relief for Zavadil, clearing probably the toughest of the cars that he has to work his way around. I believe that's Max Opolsky in the Porsche up ahead. So he is fighting Bruzzi for position. So Zavadil inserting himself in a positional battle here, but doing a really nice job working through traffic here. It's exactly what he needs to do, and fortunate not to have gotten caught up in any incidents yet. And hopefully he can stay that way in the remaining 7.5 minutes of this race as they work their way through downhill. Clearly he's not pushing super hard. With 8 seconds gap back to McCormick, he doesn't need to. Just needs to manage it, make the safe passes. He does need to get by at some point, but doesn't need to make any rash moves that could ultimately cost him. And certainly with the Porsche up ahead blinking out of existence could make life a little trickier, but he's alongside now, exit of Big Bend, and that's job done.
Dealing with so many lapped vehicles here, very difficult to do, but he did it with just about absolute class as he worked his way through that entire group. Last time by, lost a bit of lap time, and the 16's gonna get turned right behind the race leader. That's Max Opolski, who was 1 lap down, just got lapped by the race leader. And now the number 16 hits into the guardrail, has to sit there waiting for the rest of the field to go by. We'll take a look at what happened to the 16, but what an unfortunate moment for Max Opolski as he goes over and into the guardrail. Here's what happened.
It was a really tough place to be stuck, but yeah, he just had a connection problem there. Nothing Brutzi could do. He just disappeared and reappeared on the nose of his car. It's a tough. We mentioned earlier when I think it was Malsum having connection issues, it's so tough to be the car behind there, and at some points you just hope that the car that blinks out is not going to blink back and make your life a little easier. But obviously it's a tough break for Opolski, who's having a good solid race up towards the top 10, but unfortunately they're losing out as we see Lukens is off track and has dropped behind Michael Keltner once again, so not sure where exactly he went off there, but we have got a replay of it. Through the left-hander and the right, passing a lapped car. Ooh, contact, big contact with the lapped car of John Schneebel there. He's lost the rear wing. I don't know if he has more damage than that. He's hanging on to 4th place at the moment. Looks like his suspension's intact, but that's gonna be tough to finish this race without a rear wing. Hopefully Lukens can hang on, but looks like hopes of a podium are gone there for Bruce.
We'll have to see if he ends up coming into the pit lane, because that is going to be very tough. Like you mentioned, Tyler, 5 minutes left to run with no rear wing. Absolutely almost zero rear downforce on that Porsche. So it's just going to be an entire struggle bus as he races with the final 5 minutes. But Zabadil up front, he just completed another lap, as I believe we're going to have some on about 7 more to go in that range as we go inside of 5 minutes left. But McCormick able to make up a little bit of time, nowhere near enough, as Keltner pretty much is solidified a P3 spot as well. There's about another 12 seconds back to now the damaged Porsche of Bruce Lukens, and then we have Daniel Fellows peeking his way back up into the top 5.
Yeah, it's been a quiet feature race for Fellows after being a part of that massive battle pack in the heat race. But while the rest of the cars he battled in that heat race have fallen by the wayside here in the feature, he's held strong with a solid top 5 to show for it. He's only got to hang on for 4 more minutes, so hopefully I don't curse him as he dips the left-hand side off in right-hander there. That was flirting with disaster there, but Fellows continues on in 5th place. He's got Kerr behind him, Floyd Kerr, who's up 13 spots after a tough incident in the heat race, has done well here. Another driver who's kept his nose mostly clean in the feature, although there's some clear right front damage there, but Floyd has done well to keep up and hang on to a top 10. Actually, that right front damage will be from when he hit the spun car of Jeremy Davis in Big Bend, I would imagine. So really, when you figure with that incident, he's done well to keep it in the top 6 places. He's followed on the road by Rob Holubar, another driver who's had a quiet day. It seems like the drivers who have had quiet days, Josh, have been the drivers who have succeeded here. Most of the drivers we've been talking about haven't been for the most ideal reasons.
You can call it commentator's curse, you can call it us talking about the drivers that are making the most action happen on the racetrack, and usually action is followed by an incident. So you can take whichever way you want, and probably both are somewhat correct as we take a look at John Combs. 1 lap down, the first car lap down, but still a great run for them. P9 up 11 spots. We talked a little bit earlier about drivers gaining and losing spots through the field. Up 13 is Floyd Kerr, as that number 68 Porsche sits P6 on the racetrack. A great run for Kerr tonight, as He races in local Colorado karting championships and started racing karts late summer of last year. So good to see him coming into the sim world, and a great run for Floyd Kerr tonight, getting up and into 6th place after starting P19. That is not easy to do, Tyler, and if everything goes right in these last about minute and 40 seconds, he's also going to be getting a top 10 finish and finishing on the lead lap, which is better than more than half the field can say.
Yeah, well, with the pace of Lawrence Zavadil, I think you can definitely feel pretty good about finishing on the lead lap here. Just 8 cars sit on the lead lap. I don't think he's going to get to Danny Lopez before this race ends. He's some 10-ish seconds clear of Zavadil on the road. So, and with only a couple laps still to go for Zavadil, as I believe he's taking the... Oh, that's John Combs. You just mentioned him going for a spin there and into the tire bundles at the pit wall. Now, I know Brian Bruzzi was closing in quite rapidly. Was Brian there, or had he already gotten through before that incident happened? There is Brian. So it looks like John runs a little bit wide in West Bend. Brian's got a big run into downhill, gets it alongside. Oh, and it's all on his own. Brian left him plenty of room, just ran wide, and look at the job Rob Hubrex did to avoid that one. I'd love to see that on board. If we have it. But that was quite the incident there, as Zavadil will come around to take the white flag here. And what a dominant performance it has been. Kind of got the feeling it was going to go that way after the heat race, but of course anything can happen in these races. But with the white flag and a 11-second gap back to Mark McCormick, it looks pretty good here for Lawrence Zavadil.
And okay, you can call it a curse-filled race. I'll admit it. This has been full of small and big commentators' curses, but end of the day, Zavadil, McCormick, the two most dominant drivers on the racetrack, are going to be the two finishing at the front. And with Keltner and Lukens fighting in P4, how about Bruce Lukens? No rear wing on that Porsche, and he is looking at a top 5 finish. An absolutely perfect last 3 or 4 laps that he has run.
At the front, it is Lawrence Zavadil who will cross the line on the Sam Posey straight and claim the 2nd win of the night in that Porsche. If he can keep up this form for some more of the season, he is going to be a tough man to beat. And Mark McCormick will go back to the drawing board after this one and try and capture the magic he had at Road Atlanta, as Keltner crosses the line in a nice, solid podium position, up from P4 in race number 1. So a couple of very strong races for Michael Keltner. And as you mentioned, Bruce Lukens working his way around without a rear wing, comes across the line to finish in 4th place. So really tremendous racing, Josh, and obviously a bit more incident filled in the feature. You kind of expect it with a 30-minute race, but by and large, well, certainly it was an entertaining show, and I think we saw some great racing out there.
Well, I predicted it when we were in the warm-up. I thought we'd have a little bit more action here in the feature. Everybody wanted to not give an inch because they wanted all of the points and all the finishing results from this feature. Let's take a look at how they stacked up here, Tyler.
It was Lawrence Zavadil on top, as we mentioned, and Mark McCormick and Michael Keltner rounding out the podium. Really 3 solid drives there. Nothing to complain about for any of those podium finishers. Bruce Lukens made it home in 4th. Floyd Kerr, with a tremendous rebound performance after a rough heat race, claims the last spot in the top 5. Then it's Daniel Fellows, Rob Holobar, Danny Lopez, Brian Bruzzi, and Zach Peterson, your top 10. Mark Sherman, Aaron Botnick, Max Opolsky, Rob Hubrex, and Ezra Kelderman, the top 15. They were followed home by John Combs, Mark Malsum, and Kenny Schmid, all drivers who have had some trouble in this one. And that continues further on down the order with John Schneebel, Armand Gavorkian, Jeremy Davis, Mike Weber, Trace Walker, and Grant Hughes, though Grant did not take the start of race number 2. We've got some drivers who want to talk to us, including our race winner and dominant performer, Lawrence Zavadil. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Long time no talk.
Yeah, well, it was second bridesmaid at Road Atlanta, but really felt like a return to the form you had at Laguna Seca. We mentioned the tracks are somewhat similar. Both maybe suit the Porsche, but certainly it seemed to suit your driving style here around the beautiful rolling hills of Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, I'm usually trying to keep it pretty smooth, and this track is all about momentum. So staying as smooth as possible is ideal here. So that's just what my entire game plan was.
And certainly it looked smooth when we had the camera on you. Unfortunately, you were so far ahead. I don't know that you got as much screen time as some of the drivers further back, but I think you'll take that with a truly dominant win. Obviously, lap traffic an issue around a track as short as this. Did you have any scary moments out there, or was the traffic mostly helpful for you?
I couldn't tell you exactly how many people spun in front of me. I think there was at least 10. This track is absolute chaos. It's very short, and with this many drivers, it's definitely an interesting one. So I had quite a few interesting moments. One where on the main straight, a guy didn't seem to hold his brakes very well, and he was sideways in the middle of the track. And I was like, oh no, here we go. But I managed to sneak on by.
Certainly, we saw some tense moments for a lot of drivers out there, but obviously you made it through, which is what counts. And as we look forward to the rest of the championship, obviously, as we mentioned, you took the second place at Road Atlanta, but you got the punch back here at Lime Rock with the win. It seems like you and Mark are setting yourselves up early to be the championship contenders. Does it feel like it's already focused on you two, or is it still wide open?
Well, I mean, Bruce Lukens is very, very quick, but he unfortunately made a couple mistakes this race, but he is very fast, and I definitely look forward to seeing him more towards the top of the charts here next time around.
Yeah, we definitely saw some pace from Bruce out there. Had some trouble in the first race, but worked his way well forward in the second. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what he can do the rest of this season, and what all of you can do. I mean, we've seen some really strong performances from a lot of drivers. Rob Hubrex, Kenny Schmid, obviously we know from last season, and then, of course, yourself and Mark and Michael, who's put on a couple of great races today. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to the rest of the championship. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to here before we let you go?
First, shout out to RM Solo again, and then shout out to my family. I know my mom's watching, so shout out to her, and then I'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us in the booth, Lawrence. Congratulations on a couple of dominant wins, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you much, man.
And now for you, Josh, we've got our fourth place finisher in the heat race and podium finisher in the feature. It is Michael Keltner.
A great third place finish for Keltner, and a hard fought one as well. You had to fight for that podium spot. How was that race from your perspective there?
Oh, it was almost a test of wills throughout the race. I didn't want to win third that way. I broke my heart to see Bruce taken out like that, but I guess it is what it is. But it was almost like just be patient for the whole race, be consistent, and just try not to die. But it was incredibly stressful. Bruce had an incredible pass on me. I wasn't even mad about it on turn one. It was an excellent pass for third.
And going through that race, definitely looking behind you, was a bit of a test of attrition throughout this race and a test of survival. How difficult was it for you out there on the racetrack to keep that car clean and keep it in one piece? Because it seemed like you didn't have a lot of drivers around you throughout the night, and you had a couple of battles here and there, but ultimately it was a fairly lonely race and a lot of you racing yourself out there.
Yeah, there was, I think, one or two corners where I almost took myself out. Definitely on the corner before that jump. Almost had a oops there, but yeah, just being consistent, staying calm. It's a very short track, so coming up on traffic, I think, was the biggest test of all. And honestly, that's what affected most of my opponents throughout the race.
And moving forward, of course, in the campaign, a third place finish for you here. What's this going to do for your confidence going into the remainder of the schedule and trying to get more podium finishes for you in this 8 team?
Oh, I know the competition is really tough. I know it's a couple of unfortunate events happen to like Ezra and Kenny and Rob and the like, who I usually try to keep up with. It definitely will be a challenge, but I'll give it all I got.
Well, thank you for joining us here post-race in the commentary booth, Michael, and we'll see you in at the next race at the Watkins Glen.
Absolutely.
Great to hear from Michael Keltner, Tyler, and that looks like it'll conclude our post-race show tonight. And great race from a lot of the drivers. A dominant run from Zavadil, dominant run from Mark McCormick. It's going to be those two in the battle for the championship in this campaign. It looks like his first 2 rounds, it has been them up at the top, and each of them now have a point.
Yeah, as usual, we got some great racing from the folks at the Colorado Karting Tour. They've always put on a good show here on Apex Racing TV. It was, it was great to see everyone out there battling around a really tough track of Lime Rock Park. It's deceptively difficult with so few corners. But as some of the drivers mentioned, it can be a bit chaotic and turn into a bit of a survival race, and certainly put on an entertaining show for all the fans watching. If you are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to catch more action here on Apex Racing TV, if you are watching on the YouTube channel, you're already in the right place. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification icon. You'll never miss a broadcast. You can also follow us on our various social media platforms, whichever you like. Just look for Apex Racing TV. And you can find information about upcoming broadcasts and events, as well as all sorts of other great clips and highlights and everything from the racing that you saw here today and all of our other series. But that'll do it for us tonight. We look forward to seeing you at the next Colorado Karting Tour event. But for now, that'll be me, Josh Lee, and John Grabowski here in the production. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.